But with that said, Teddy, let's jump into Sugar Sean O'Malley. He gets back in the win column with a win against Thomas Almeida. He's coming off the first round TKO to Marlon Vera. He got kicked in the calf, and it did something to the nerve, gave him drop foot. He couldn't really stand on his foot. Marlon Vera put him away. Well, Sean O'Malley made up for it on Saturday night with an absolute beatdown of Thomas Almeida. He ended up finishing him in the third round, but I would argue he could have had him in the first. He had him hurt, let him off the hook, kind of walked away as he dropped him, which looked like for a minute maybe was a mistake, but he eventually did get him out of there. Looked awesome doing it. What'd you see in that one?
I see a future star. I mean, I don't see how you can not see that between the talent. And he's literally colorful, between his tattoos and his style. Yeah, he's colorful. And
his rainbow hair.
Yeah, all of it. He's got it all working. He's pretty good at marketing. He's pretty good at understanding that part of it, the commercial part of it, but he backs it up. He backs it up with incredible talent. And I tweeted during that fight, and the first thing I tweeted, I think it was the first thing, but first thing that came to my mind was, wow, I haven't seen a guy with this much talent and this unorthodox, unconventional, awkward, everything that you want to throw in there. I haven't seen anyone this difficult a style and different, unique a style since the 90s when in boxing I saw Prince Hasim Hamed, that was a world champion, undefeated world champion. At the time, I believe he was a southpaw, Hamed, if my memory serves me correct. But on top of that, he was a very awkward guy. He was very unorthodox, great power. O'Malley looks like he's got great power. Really, really unique and different. I mean...
And you got quite a compliment from Mr. Teddy Atlas. He said he hasn't seen a fighter like you since Prince Naseem back in the 90s.
I was watching his highlights. Tim and I threw his highlights on before we came over here. I have the last, couple fights.
Hamed got away with that and dominated with that up until the point that he paid a price for some of the things he did unconventional, some of the things that he did not by the playbook, not by the Boxing 101 book, where he did things wrong, but he made it right, like Roy Jones. I often say Muhammad Ali, they had the ability to do things wrong, make it right for them. But he made a career out of it, Hamed, until he ran into Marco Antonio Barrera. I mean, Marco Antonio Barrera, one of the great Mexican fighters of all time, one of the great fighters, period, world champions of all time, wound up making him pay for some of that and took him apart. But up until that point, he made a cottage industry out of being awkward, out of being different, out of being unconventional. And again, that's the first thing O'Malley made me think about. Wow, I haven't seen this since then. And he...
just being that loose and having that much fun is what this is all about. So watching guys like him do it is, it motivates me, inspires me, and it's funny that he said that because we were literally watching his highlights today.
He's a fun guy to watch. And he's wiry. He's wiry. He confirms things that I always say. You see a skinny, wiry guy like that. I always say, that punches are these guys. I know you see other punches like Tyson and great punches, Foreman, Joe Frazier. I get it. But these wiry, skinny guys that look like they could use an extra meal sometimes they get torque, they get leverage, they get power. And Rob, I know, is going to put the list up there for me. I had asked him, but I mean, it comes to mind guys like Arguello, Carlos Zarate, Bob Foster, Lou Jenkins, Tommy Hearns. I mean, for the great fans out there, Google these guys, see how skinny they were, and see how they knock guys sideways. So O'Malley has that kind of wiry frame. He gets that kind of power. He has good instincts too. Controls range really well. Sets offense up with the jab, keeps you in his range at the end of his punches. Then he switches from orthodox to southpaw. He steps back at the proper time, sets up counters and traps. Really, really, really a difficult guy to prepare for. if you're fighting, again, my tips out there, my thoughts out there to the fans, to the people, whoever is, interested. If I had a guy fighting someone like him, like I said, difficult assignment. But the first thing for me, you got to use feints. You got to feint him, get him to make one of his instinctive moves prematurely. Make him show what he's going to do. Show his hand, kind of like playing cards, and you want to see what a guy's got. You know what I mean? So you feint him, you make him show his hand, you make him move a little too soon, where instead of timing you could time him. So I think feints are very important if you're going to fight O'Malley, and a jab. You got to use a jab, kind of like we'll get to it later, but like I had said about Ngannou, he's going to have to use a jab in his rematch with Miocic, and he did, to stabilize the guy, to keep him stable, to keep him under control. And even if you jab to the chest, you aim it down lower, Ken, because you might not be able to catch him in the head. He's pretty slick. So you catch him here, you stabilize him, you keep him in front, you keep yourself in the game mentally. You give yourself hope. You give yourself confidence. You're not getting frustrated. That's part of it. You don't want to go down that slippery slope. You don't want to go off that cliff where you're starting to get desperate. You're starting to get frustrated. So if you're hitting them in the chip, you're staying in the game. You're keeping yourself where, okay, you're not getting frustrated. I'm mentally staying where I need to stay. And physically, you're staying where you need to stay because you're keeping them stabilized. You're keeping him in control yourself. You're keeping him in control where you keep him in the universe you need him to be in, the place you need him to be. So for me, if you fought a guy like that, and then after you do all that, good luck. Yeah, it's still good luck because you got to go freaking execute it. But that's what you got to do, I believe, if you're going to fight a guy like him. As I tweeted, O'Malley, as I said before, he's literally colorful, right? And he's great talent, unique guy, and I look forward to seeing more. But for me, the matchmaking's important because to watch a guy with that kind of style, it's an acquired taste, so to speak. It's like kind of having a special kind of dessert that's very rich. You can only have so much of it. It's great. It's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's very rich, and so you got to have it at the right time and just the right amount of it. Kind of, that's how O'Malley is. You got to put him in the right guy who you feel can test him, because otherwise it almost becomes almost like a cat playing with a mouse, or a cat play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not. It becomes like not competitive. Like you lose your interest. Like a cat's toying with a mouse. The mouse ain't freaking winning, right? I mean, So after a while, like, how long do you want to watch a cat toy with a mouse? Not too long. So unless you're one of those sick individuals that gets some. Unfortunately, we have some in this world. That get pleasure out of seeing such things. That probably shouldn't have pleasure out of. But for the most part, I think that to really enjoy O'Malley, it's got to be in there with a guy that has the talent, has the mindset to be able to put himself in a chance to win with the fight, to deal with that kind of difficult style, difficult talent.